Online. Hello, my dear friends. Best greetings from Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. I am Victor Fursov. I'm research entomologist, beekeeper, and teacher, and this is my channel about entomology, the science of insects and some another invertebrates who are associated with insects, like some acarids, some exodus mites, some ticks, or some invertebrates which are living together in association with insects, the most proliferous, most numbered group of animals all around the world. Like it's considered that some ants, all species of ants, they have a huge, the biggest biomass on this earth, on the whole globe world. So even human beings are not so proliferous, not so massive in weight, instead of in comparison with ants. But today we will be talking about ants as well, about another insects. And today I visited Natural History Museum, or National Museum of Natural History of Ukraine, which is located at the street Bogdan Khmelnytsky, Hetman Bogdan Khmelnytsky Street in Kyiv, near Metro Teatralna. I visited the lecture of my colleague, Dr. Alexey Kovalenko. He presented his book about fungi, mushrooms, and the competition between fungi and plants. So there are some parasitic fungi which are developing inside the stems, inside the flowers, inside branches and trees and shrubs and different grasses. Around the whole global world, so there are some parasitic fungi. Some of them even are eatable. So he wrote already his third book. So one first book was about fruits and vegetables. Second book was about invasive species of plants, which are introduced to all globally in different parts of the world. And was his third presentation about book about fungi and mushrooms in the global world on this planet. Very heavy book. Not here, not with me. I can present it and show you later. And of course, before the lecture, I was walking around the National Museum of Natural History, which is considered 4 floors. First floor is Archaeology Museum, second Geology Museum, third then will be Paleontology Museum. This is in Kyiv. Then it is Zoology Museum, and on the top, this is a 5th floor, which is named Botany Museum. Botany Museum. Welcome, Rostislav. Welcome online. So you can write a little bit in English for our English-speaking people as well. Thank you for your coming. So what did I find in this museum? Of course, I was walking between aquariums. Aquariums are really nice. There were a lot of people who visited this museum. And this weekend, many parents with children, we didn't have air alert, just where now in Ukraine and in Kyiv there is also situation always under the certain threat of air alert. And when I just finished this tour in the museum, I was in a cafe. I visited McDonald's, by the way. And after McDonald's, I recognized there is air alert immediately. It was for 1 hour. And this day in Kyiv, we had 2 alerts. Morning time and just evening time, because some crazy airplanes with missiles coming out from airports and just moving somewhere. And there is a constant threat of air attack on Ukraine and our cities. Fortunately, we have air missiles protecting our land, protecting Ukraine, and we just trust our army, which is protecting us against these bloody aggressors. So going back to the museum. Going back to the museum, not going to talk about this crazy stuff. Yesterday, my presentation was switched off, actually, because electricity was switched off. This have the same constant trouble that there are some switches of blackouts of electricity from time to time, regularly or irregularly, because these bloody aggressors will attack our electricity infrastructure. And that's why in big cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv, Kherson, Zaporozhye, Dnipro, Nikopol, many cities in all through the front line on the east and on the south, many cities are switched off from electricity, even Kyiv, which is a little bit far from front line, but we are under this threat as well. So electricity was switched off and my presentation was just cut off. So bloody aggressors. But we trust our army, and this gives us not only hope, but belief that we will be liberated from these crazy neighbors. We will liberate the land of Ukraine, and we will be liberated in the soul and materially, physically, economy against these bloody aggressors. From this, so go out to the east. Go out to the east. Let's go back to the museum. What I found in the museum. In the museum were a lot of interesting expositions. Definitely we came to the exposition of paleontology. I made a small recording near the house of ancient people who were living on the territory of Ukraine approximately 20 or 30,000 years ago. And this artificial house is done from the bones and stones of ancient mammoths. This is ancient elephant, which were living on the territory here 30,000 years ago. And the restoration of this house is presented in the museum. Two houses from Chernigov and Cherkasy region. One from Mizhigori village and one from Mizin village in Chernigov district on the north of Ukraine. So this is absolutely amazing, fantastic, brilliant restoration of house, because this is paleontology and like archaeology excavation, and it is a restoration of house, and it will be shown on my video a little bit later on a separate file. But I'm inviting you just to visit museum to enjoy it yourself. Or otherwise you can visit only Japan with the same copy of this house in one of the cities in the Natural History Museum in Japan. I can give you the name precisely a little bit later. And then we came just to another floor to zoology department with collections, so department of entomology and zoology of different mammals, fish, different cows, different mammals from forestry steppe region of Ukraine, with invertebrates from beneath the world, which are living in the ocean. There is a special huge exhibition on the wall, like panel, absolutely wonderful, with some presentations in Ukrainian and in English as well. Just artificially recorded, specially recorded on tape recorders for people who are just searching for something interesting. And of course, I paid attention to entomology exhibition very well. So today I will be talking, and I will not be showing you just some insects, which I have recorded during the past season or previous 2 seasons as well. But I will show you a little bit, not exhibition, but some exposition of my previously collected insects. So I show you some collections. So maybe you tired a little bit from videos, so collections is interesting. So why people are collecting insects? Yes, you see here on the background there are some insects presented here, which are a really big one, like my palm. So, but originally they are very small. Originally they are very tiny, just only 1-2 millimeters. Here, they are huge. This is a huge magnification. I can see them only under the microscope. But some insects more or less big size, have a big size like this. Very big bee. There are no bee of the same size actually. No wasp of the same size. The biggest wasp is about 5 centimeters size, and they're belonging to hornets. And today I can show you hornets. But many people collecting insects for pleasure, for collection, and it can be considered collecting insects like art, or like investments. By paying money for some insects, by making kind of a exhibition with butterflies, putting them under the glass in special boxes, so like this circle box. So just put it on the wall somewhere in the house, and kitchen, in the dining room. This is also a present of from my friends, from my colleagues. I didn't buy it especially, but they presented me as a present. So people are aesthetically enjoying just watching for insects. Or some people collecting big insects like butterflies. These are butterflies which were collected by my friends. Actually, one my friend from Chernigov region as well. He collected it just, and I use it for presentation during some tours of school pupils, of some students who are coming to our department at the Institute of Zoology, where I'm working as a scientist, as a researcher, and entomologist. So I have opportunity to show some insects from this exhibition collection, not special scientific collection, because scientific collection must be stored very carefully, labeled with special labels, and scientific collection has a special scientific value. Because what does it mean? What does it mean, you say? What is the difference between amateurs collection and scientific collection? Scientific collection is always under the investigation. Under investigation of what? What it can be investigated in under this insects. Scientists, or just to be precisely saying about entomologists, who are also the same as zoologists, we're studying insects. So we're studying entomology, we can study the anatomy of insects, we can study morphology of insects, different structure of insects, morphology. This is external structure of insects, how we have different changes in color, in sizes, in shapes, which can be different because of different geographical variations. And also entomologists, we have a special group of taxonomists and systematics. We're studying differences between different species of bees, bumblebees, wasps, ants, hornets, parasitic wasps, beetles, bugs, dragonflies, all groups. In different groups, there are some specialists on very special group of insects, like on dragonflies, and another specialist is just on beetles, and next one, like me, specialist on parasitic wasps, very small one, as I said, 1-2 millimeters, and my favorite just only 0.5 millimeter, half of millimeter, the smallest, and the smallest actually 1/3 part of millimeter, the smallest, belonging to the genus Megaphragma, which are egg parasitoids of thrips. You can imagine thrips has a size like this pen, 1 millimeter, and parasitoid is just only 1/3 part of millimeter. The smallest parasitic wasp belonging to the family Trichogrammatidea, which I'm specialist on this group. Smallest genus Megaphragma, which is mostly inhabiting some tropical areas, to be precise. If you are interested, I can write you just more details on my email. If you have questions about insects, don't forget about my email. This is my Skype. We can talk. You can indicate your Skype. Or this is my email. If you have questions about insects, welcome to write on my email, so we can discuss about insects. Because, as I said, I visited lecture of my colleague who is botanicist, and I was very surprised. You know, more than 30 people were gathering in a big room, and were very attentive, just listening for his presentation. 30 young, not old, absolutely young, maybe between 10 years, the group of maybe 5-6 children with parents, and others 20 were about 30, were between age of 16 maybe 25, 30 years old. Young audience, very young audience, were interested in fungi and in plants, and everybody was listening to, and then it was a queue for signing a book about fungi and mushrooms. So there are some groups of not specialists, I guess, probably not all of them biologists. Many of them were just amateurs who are loving to breed different plants, mushrooms, collect mushrooms somewhere in a forest and just in the parks and enjoying just mushrooms just like a food. But some people enjoying even some scientific information, because we had today this lecturer Alexei Kovalenko, he made scientific presentation about parasitic fungi. Was very interesting. So some people can be interested, and who are interested in insects can be considered as amateur entomologists. And many amateur entomologists collecting insects for collection, for pleasure, for interest, and for certain scientific knowledge. As I was talking, to study morphology, to study anatomy, to study physiology, how they are moving, how they are communicating, how they are gathering, what is about their instincts, which we studied still John Henry Faber 2000, not 2000, about 200 years ago, the famous French entomologist John Henry Faber started to study social life of insects, if like wasps, hornets, and other insects. And he just gave just the first stone to the science of physiology of insects and studying behavior of insects. Entomologists, we can study morphology, anatomy, physiology, and behavior, social behavior of insects, or just solitary insects, different ones. And of course, all these special and taxonomists were studying different species and naming new names and precise names after identifications of insects, because all insects were different. Some of them were bigger, like these butterflies, some are small, like these parasitic wasps, but we need special identification. What means identification? Identification, it means precise name which is given from the 200 years ago, no, not 2000, 200 years ago, by Linnaeus, the famous zoologist Linnaeus, which is binomial with name, Latin name, genus name, and species name. So each individual animal, plants, and mushrooms and fungi has a special name considered first name, genus name, and species name, and then it belonging to a tribe, subtribe, subfamily, and family, and so on and so forth. Different taxonomical levels. So identification is a given name, scientific name for each individual, each insect. And it's quite difficult. But for that, entomologists collecting insects in collections, in their scientific collection. As you recognize, amateurs collecting insects just for pleasure, for observations, to observe big beetles, big butterflies, large sink moth, very wonderful and beautiful Lucanidae, stag beetles like this, Lucanidae beetles. Or even some people can collect nice small beetles, small size beetles. But some people enjoy collecting big beetles. Even these beetles are pretty rare, but you can collect them dead. Yes, because these males with these stag beetles, and here one female, we were collected dead in Chernigov region of Ukraine, just near the host plant, because they were gathering during mating in a late summertime. And this my friend who is from Chernigov region, who is my subscriber, and we're just exchanging some information from time to time. He was very kind to send me these insects for this presentation to you, my followers and my students. So scientists need to give names for insects. And what do they do for that? First of all, they are making collection, and after having collection of different insects of particular group, like butterflies, beetles, bugs, dragonflies, different groups, people are writing books. People are writing books like this book. This book is Atlas of Insects, Pests of Field Crops, Agricultural Crops. Inside, they are writing description of biology, behavior, distribution of these species, description of the morphology of these insects, and then given picture of this insect. Different pictures, like this atlas here was one of the first atlases, which is actually still drawing by artists. So here all plants together with insect pests are indicated in this book of my colleague who just passed away some years ago, Valery Mikhailovich Yarmolenko, famous doctor of science, Ukrainian doctor of science, who is a great naturalist, photographer, and specialist on Hymenoptera. And so he didn't draw these pictures, but he wrote all this information, scientific information, and corrected all details of morphology of its insects for artists under his leadership. Artists made very correct pictures because all these pictures are scientifically correct. Each small antenna, each small elytra, each color in here verified by specialists, by entomologists. Valery Mikhailovich Yarmolenko, this is his atlas. So even it was still not photos, because in this time, 40 years ago, it was published 40 years ago of this book. Photography was not so well developed in printing service, so but artists could publish it in best detail. Now there are a lot of atlases which are published with photographs. So the atlases were used also for identification. Like some of these atlases are very heavy, especially for butterflies. So these butterflies of Greece. So even this book is written about butterflies of Greece. Even some butterflies are widely distributed in Ukraine as well. So this book also can be used for identification of these species of butterflies which are living in Ukraine. So here also is given information about description of butterflies and big, very large photographs of these butterflies, like this Lecture-13 family. Very small butterflies, very tiny, about 2 centimeters size of wings, but absolutely wonderful. Blue butterflies, very lovely butterflies. So the host plant is usually just Fabaceae, locust plants, Fabaceae. Different beans, different genera and different species of beans. Lecture-13, like you see here. And all another here differentiation regarding different families of butterflies, like here Nymphalidae. Looks like similar, but all the species are different. It was identified still Linnaeus 300 years ago. But with picture here, high quality photos, it's easy to identify that this one is Nymphalis antipa, which is quite a rare species in our region because of environmental changes mostly. Oh, this one is coming even to the cities. Vanessa atalanta, all right. Very common butterflies in gardens. In some gardens, one of my friends wrote me, many specimens were coming to his orchard for searching for juice of pears and apples in autumn time. Like 100, 200 butterflies were gathering in orchard, just drinking, sucking the juice of pears. So these are wonderful, beautiful atlases. Some atlases can be about butterflies distribution all around the world. So also here there are several chapters regarding different families of butterflies, like some Nymphalidae, Pierridae, Lecinidae, different families. And definitely here also it's done some kind of information, not only the picture, but also identification, precise name of the species, because sometimes some species we have very tiny differentiation, very looks like very similar, but have a little bit spot on the wings, but a different coloration on the wings, different size, one band, white band, yellow band, green band, small, several spots, little one spot more, and it will be new species. It's discovery for entomologists. That's why some amateurs and scientists prefer to collect several specimens of butterflies to compare them at the laboratory under the microscope very carefully to identify, is here any small spot on the wings from a dorsal view or from a ventral view, from the down, maybe a little bit small changes in coloration. It gives the opportunity to describe maybe subspecies of butterfly. And it will be also discovery, subspecies which can be different morphologically and even anatomically. Morphologically, some butterflies, males can be differentiated, and females as well, for female and males, genitalia. Entomologists making some special microscopic preparations of genitalia, looking for them under the microscope, taking photographs and publishing either books or scientific articles with description of discovered new species or description of discovered new subspecies. And definitely it's very pleasant, interesting for them, and this is for professional entomologists, this is their job, to find new species, to describe them carefully, and publish these descriptions in the scientific books and in scientific articles. And now with the high-level scientific articles with a high Hirsch factor, it means international scientific, internationally recognized and peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals, not only in a privately published books where scientists and entomologists or just amateur can say, this is a new species of butterfly, or this is the next one species, and giving just a name. No. In a peer-reviewed journal, scientists' data are reviewed by another scientist and making some corrections, some discussions, and giving just more precise data, or just maybe small changes in descriptions, or better comparison with types of different species, because to say this is one species or another, it's not enough looking on the picture. In some cases, it's very important to compare not the individual collected fresh one with a paratype or with type material, holotype. This is just first example which was used for description of species, butterfly, beetles, dragonflies, bugs, and so on and so forth. Comparison of paratype, type material with an individual. This is a part of a job of entomologists, taxonomists who are just involved in taxonomical study of insects for identification and for description of new species. And this is a very important part of taxonomy, of entomology, taxonomy and systematics, identification and recognition of type material and recognition of scientific value of its type, and also morphological variability, the changes of morphology in geographical which is dependent from geographical distribution or dependent from environmental changes, environmental places. In some insects living in one place can be a little bit different, not geographically, but because of different environment and different host plants, different temperature, and many factors which are influencing insects' physiology. And through physiology, insects changing their coloration, changing their behavior, and changing their morphology. So some insects needs very careful identification. Some insects needs very careful collecting efforts, because many insects living in distant areas. Some butterflies, like here in this book of Butterflies of World, living in a tropical areas where pretty far away from European part of it. So it needs to spend some financial costs, some financial efforts needs to be done to attend distant areas. And of course, entomologists and zoologists do like very much the expedition time, mostly in the summertime, for visiting different distant areas like tropical, semi-tropical areas, or maybe some mountains for collecting insects from distant areas, because if these distant areas have not been visited before, this is a very lucky situation, because in this distant area which was not studied before, entomologists, taxonomists, and scientists can find new species. What means new species? New species which can be described by scientists, by taxonomists, and given new name for the science. And this new species of butterfly, bees, parasitic wasps will be described in the scientific literature with given name by the scientist. And third part of the name, this is a surname of a scientist. Like actually myself, I also gave some names for insects, for parasitic wasps, like this, from the family Trichogrammatide, Eulophidae, Eurytamidae, Taurimidae. So 2 names, genus name, species name, and third name, this is the name of scientist, one scientist or several scientists. If you publish a paper with description of insects in cooperation, in collaboration with your colleagues and friends. So, and this description is published in scientific literature, in book or in scientific peer-reviewed journal. Mostly now this should be English-speaking, English printing journal. All in other languages are not favorable now. Especially, do not say which one of this the worst became the worst. Now, Ukrainian scientists are going to forget one language which was considered to be the worst. But we are publishing books and also articles and publications in English. In English, or some people like German language or French language, Spanish language, Portuguese language. Some books can be published in these languages, but scientific literature majority, like even just in Turkish Republic, Turkish scientists and entomologists and zoologists publishing descriptions of new species and description of behavior and biology of zoological subjects and entomological objects in English language. Just actually, I also published recently in Turkish journal my paper of about 30 pages about methods of collecting parasitic wasps. This one, it was a Turkish journal, but paper was 30 pages and in English. In English, so learn English, study English, and publish everything in English. Now this is the most important language. All other languages of our neighbors should be forgotten. So these are articles about different insects. So, and here, long list of description, long list of names, an indication, distribution, and also maybe locality where this specimen is deposited, because each insect in scientific collection must be stored and deposited in scientific collection in the institute. And what is most important, if you have collection, to save this collection. Oh, I showed you atlas of insects, which is used for identification. Some pictures and some photographs also are used for publishing some atlases with descriptions, which is used as a for consideration of scientifically approval for species which are under the danger of disappearance, but species which need some conservation efforts, like this book of insects, which is called Red Book of Animals of Ukraine. Here some invertebrates, some vertebrates, and there are some beetles, which are considered to be endangered. So with some points here indicated on the map, the distribution of species, description of biology, taxonomical name, some measures of conservation. And here some photographs and some insects drawings as well. This is a red book, but I showed you some atlases, but in some insects quite difficult to make atlases, especially for small insects. Like for small insects, some scientists publishing books with photographs under the microscope, like this. Under the microscope, some photographs of ants. Ants, this is white and black. Some morphological changes, some special characters of antennae, shape, of thorax, abdomen, antennae, some measurements, some shape of mandibles, shape of face, front, different seta on legs, different tarsal segments, and pictures are given here which were taken under the scanning microscope, white and black. And actually, this is a book of my colleague Alexander Radchenko, which is named Dermestidae Ants of Ukraine. Not so many colored photographs because ants were very small, between 1 millimeter, the smallest pharaoh ant, and the big one maybe 5, 6, 7 millimeters. But here the scientific description of biology, scientific description of distribution, geographical distribution through the Palearctic region, taxonomical notes, indication of collected material and material deposited in scientific collection, in collection of our Institute of Zoology of National Academy of Sciences in Kyiv, which is deposition place for scientific material which is stored for many years, and some collections are stored for over 100 years. Like Karavayev types collection of ants is stored in our collection of Institute of Zoology in Kyiv for over 100 years, and this is a type material of ants. So you see, not so many pictures, but scientific description of systematical position of different species, names and synonyms for different species, map of distribution, taxonomical notes on biology and ecology of species of ants. And this book was published in 2016. So many lovers of ants just breeding ants in captivity because we are breeding ants in laboratory, and sometimes people do not know the name, or where people are breeding some tropical species, but some Ukrainian species which are distributed widely through Palearctics, but their biology even can be not studied very well. So if you just formicarium, like artificial house for artificial nest of species distributed in Ukraine, and can study them carefully at laboratory or even at your house in a formicarium, it will be quite interesting. It may have also scientific value, because you can add some information about the trophical relations between different hosts, which are used like food for these ants. So trophical relation between different groups of insects, which are used as a food by ants, and with different species of ants in nature or in laboratory, studying the biology and behavior of different species. And you can use this book for scientific data about biology, ecology, or you can make small collections of insects in glasses, in some glasses, and you can bring these glasses with ants fixed maybe in ethanol or dry, somewhere fixed by small cotton balls in small glasses, putting precise label with locality, place where it was collected. You can bring for Alexander Radchenko, who is Doctor of Science and working in our institute, and kindly ask him about possible identification. If he will be very kind, he can help you in identification of this or that species of ant from your collection, and maybe you can collect some new species distributed, which were never indicated even in Ukraine. Yes, it is possible. So from time to time, as he said, couple new species came just later after the publishing of this book. Not all insects, not all ants were indicated in this book. He published a couple, 2-3 papers later with 3 species of ants which were indicated as new for this area, for territory of Ukraine, which have never been indicated before. So even you making your observations under the microscope or just carefully in formicarium, you can find new species, either scientific new species or new data about distribution of new species which have not been recorded before in this or that area. So this is possible. And for that, I can finish part about collection. So maybe you are a lover of beetles, so you enjoy different scarabeid beetles. So very important to collect several individuals, but not so much. Do not collect 100 individuals. Do not collect 1,000 similar individuals just for pleasure, just for fun. Scientists were collecting just certain number for investigation. There were always some measurements of necessity, how many individuals should be collected. Like 3 individuals, good enough for big species, for rare species, maybe 10 individuals, good enough for another species. Or if you can recognize with your just naked eye that this species is rare in your area, do not collect them so much, or even few individuals better to save. But for collection, it's very important to have what? If you keep collection in scientific laboratory or at home conditions, very important to save collection, because if you're keeping collection, I checked this collection and I was disappointed because I found that this collecting box with insects were not properly closed. Yes, I forgot about it. All of the other boxes sealed with this band. Yes, with scotch band. You need to use this scotch band to close the box very carefully, because otherwise small pests will come inside through the scratches or through the small cavities. And I found here several larvae of beetles, larvae of dermestid beetles, skin beetles, which are dangerous pests of collections. And I'm very much afraid we just sitting here and eating some of my insects here, and some of them were destroyed. Maybe we ate some abdomens, some heads, and some insects will be disintegrated, just crushed. Unfortunately, some insects could be crushed if your box is not properly sealed like this, open. No, this is a very bad idea. The best situation, if you can seal it, put it in a freezer for 3-5 days to fix all beetles, to kill them, and then, if not sealed with a scotch band, put it inside plastic bags like that and close it carefully. even your insects can be in plastic box. Still, you cannot recognize here small cavities, small crevices inside. And larvae can penetrate, can come inside, or beetles can come inside and lay eggs and disintegrate all collections. So put inside plastic. Close plastic carefully. Just like this. Put it inside plastic bag. Ecologically, so it will be very safe for your collections inside this plastic box. Yes, very cheap, but very safe. Or just use it like this. Like this box. I sealed it. All this around with scotch. So here collection has not been disintegrated. So I am very lucky. Lucky because in another box, some insects were eaten and disintegrated. Some of my hornets, which I collected in a hornet's nest, unfortunately were pinned. But pins, it's not enough. Box was open, and through some open places, some beetles came inside and fed on my poor hornets. So it will need just to throw away all hornets out. But I have another box I show you now, which is with hornets were not destroyed. Here, this is a small collection I use for presentations with different honeybees and wasps and hornets of different species. Here several lines with Andrenidae, solitary bees, and here just honeybees, and here some queen cells. This black color, these are queen cells because they're old. So wax from a normal beehive becoming old, and color is changing to brown. This is a fresh piece of frame with cells yellow, so fresh wax is yellow or just whitish. And here this is old one because process of oxidation, just wax becoming dark brown. Here are some worker bees, some here on first line some queens, variation of queens I collected in the apiary of my friend Vasil Priatelenko, Ukrainian beekeeper. So you can find several stories from his apiary on my channel. So these bees were collected in his apiary, definitely, from time to time when I visited in the summertime. And here some ground wasps of a family Vespidae. Here some hornets, big Vespa crabra, European hornet. And here some Scoliidae, Megascolia maculata males. No female, but males are very common and coming just even in our sleeping area in Kyiv and living not in a forest, not in a park, but even somewhere between trees in the small parks near apartments. So I collected them just a couple of years ago, and I use this for presentations with my students and college students, university and college students. And here this is another box with hornets. I was invited to stop some hornet's nest just in a village near Kyiv. I collected these hornets myself and I pinned them. And here this is a small part of a hornet's nest. So it's somewhere in the middle. And here I found some queens, bigger size, several queens. In August time and September, it's quite easy to find already grown several queens, which are mating together even just in the time of collecting. And here some workers, females, queens, quite a little bit bigger, not so much. I expected they were very big, not so much bigger. Some workers' hornets smaller, yes, that's right. But some of the biggest are nearly the same size as queens. And in August time, in September month, quite easy to collect some males. And easily differentiated because they have a longer antenna on head and they are not stinging. But to collect these insects, you need to have very good protection, which is used like in a beekeeping farm in apiary. Without protection, better do not stop hornets and all other wasps. Better to invite beekeeper, professional beekeeper who has such special mesh on his face, special equipment, special bags, and special equipment for liquidation, which can stop and collect insects without any damage for him or for her, or just for her hosts. Because in some cases, some pensioners, some old people in villages, this is from my experience, explain me, but my husband just came to the roof and tried to stop hornets just with his hands. He used just only his normal clothes and he was stung several times and he nearly fell down from the ladder, which was near the house from the roof, and he came just to the hospital for a couple of weeks. Yeah, so without equipment, without proper equipment, you are not going to liquidate and stop hornets. You must be proper equipped. Ask properly beekeeper for help. So I showed you and I will show some new videos about hornets on my channel. So welcome to my channel to see more videos about hornets. And finally here also another box with wasps and honeybees. Here the line of workers, line of queens, the line of drones, males. And here some, in comparison, there are some solitary bees, wild solitary bees, which are not living in a beehive, but which are living either in soil, so they can be called the ground bees, solitary bees. They look morphologically very close like honeybees, but they are different. They are not making the colony. They are living one by one, separately, in different small nests, in different holes under the ground. Or they can live in some cavities and some holes in stems or in wood, in dry stems and dry wood, or in crevices in between bricks on some stony walls, for instance. So solitary bees. And there are a lot of more than 1,000 species of solitary bees in Europe. And here some hornets, here some bumblebees, beloved species of bumblebees. People like very much bumblebees. We will be talking about them, how to make nest of bumblebees, how to attract them, how to take care of them, for inviting them to your garden, to your orchard. And of course, I collected just few individuals in autumn time where colony is big. And if you collect certain small number of specimens in autumn time, it's already not dangerous. Here there is no queen, only small workers for bumblebees. It's not a big danger for colony if I collected 10 individuals from different colonies. It's most important, do not collect for collection bumblebees in springtime and the biggest bumblebees, which are queens. Queens will be overwintering, and it's better to save them because they will start new colony after hibernation, after overwintering somewhere under the ground in the soil. So better to protect them. Better to invite them to your artificial bumblebees houses. But this is scientific collection for investigation for species identification and for presentation of different morphological characters of different species and groups of insects. Here some hornets, and here some males of Scoleidae wasps, which are parasitic on larvae of rhinoceros beetles. I showed you some rhino beetles, so the Scoleidae wasp, Scolia maculata, is parasitic on rhino beetles, on rhinoceros beetles. And also this is not social beetle, not social wasp. these are solitary wasps and not very aggressive. So this is a story about bees, about wasps, about bumblebees. I hope so about collection. If you have collection, write under this video which collections are favorite for you, which groups of insects do you like, did you collect them, and please do not collect too much of insects. Several individuals of the same species is good enough for collection. Take a measure yourself. Do not kill, do not destroy the whole population of insects in the nature. Collect a little bit certain amount of insects, just to prevent their disappearance because of changes of natural environment, because of global warming, because of acid raining, and all different pollution by plastic, everything else around, and here even this pollution after the war, which is terrible actually. Be careful, because now it's time very dangerous in Ukraine to come to the field for insects collection. But we hope so, but we will have time to collect insects in the steppe region, in the forestry steppe region, in the forests, which will be free from all different bad stuff, and zoologists, amateurs, professionals will be happy to go to the nature to study behavior, morphology, to study trophical relations of different insects in the nature, and then in the laboratory for scientific purposes and for public purposes, for education, because you can look for some insects and you can enjoy them as well, aesthetically. So you can watch and say, beautiful bumblebee, beautiful bee, I love you very much. So if you can say so, you are a real entomologist, you are a real zoologist, you are a real nature conservationist. So you can take your efforts for nature conservation in this coming summer. And don't forget about Ukraine. Ukraine will be forever, and Ukraine will win. So thank you for watching. Press like, write your comments under this video. Visit my Patreon page. Ask questions privately on my email. And you want to support my channel, visit my donation page, which is named PayPal or just Patreon for the free donations from volunteers. Thank you very much for coming. Looking forward to see you soon on my next video stream. If you have questions, write under this video or visit my Gmail. This is ufancy, sorry, like that. Ufancy, Gmail, my email. Thank you for coming. Good luck, see you soon. Bye-bye. Good luck, see you soon. And here on my stream, thank you very much. Today weekend, so we were talking quite a lot. Collections, about collection, always were some interesting points to discuss about collection. Right, which groups did you like? Which groups did you collect? Which groups you are afraid? Which insects you are searching for? Or you can be considered as a hunter of some insects. But please take care about insects. Nature conservation and insects conservation is very important. Thank you for watching. Good luck to Rostislav and other viewers who visited my channel anonymously and didn't write comments. Welcome to subscribe. Bye bye. Good luck.